Hi, and if this is your first time here, I am Souldapop, and today I'm going to be doing a showcase of some of the strats of speedrunning Lost Kingdoms. Please ignore some things that might be going on. We got Ninos being kind of disruptive. But let's get into it. Lost Kingdoms is a 2002 game from it's hard to say that back to back, from Software, who you probably know as the creators of the Soul series and Bloodborne. They also done Tenchu and Armored Core. I've done a little straw poll in my head, and I decided I'm going to go with my actual name. It's always a good thing to figure out what name you want to use collectively. There's actually some funny things you can do with the name. Because there, unfortunately, is no voice acting in this game, you're always referred to in text, and they always call you Princess whatever name you chose. So if you name yourself something like Princess ? It can be like somebody coming in to say something definitive, like, the kingdom is under attack, Princess Johnny? Type of thing, and it can be pretty fun to go through and play the story that way. But of course, this is a speed run. We don't have time for that. So it really doesn't matter what our name is. Come in and we're going to have our first battle here. It's a little slow. Oh my god, it's still going. A little slow because we didn't get the hand that we wanted, but it's okay. Basic description of this game, if you can give it a basic description. It is a action RPG deck building card game, real time. Those words not necessarily in that order. The story is basically there is a fog rolling in, people are dying, and monsters are showing up. That's Gerd. She's going to be annoying for a little bit. We're going through this tutorial stage where she's going to tell us how to do everything, but of course we're speedrunning this game, so obviously we already know how things work. Like I said, we're going through a tutorial right now, and it's a good time to explain the mechanics. We're going into another battle right here that we're going to immediately run from. Every time you run from a battle, you lose a card for the remainder of the stage. Once we get into another battle, let's start a little bit more into that. This one will last a little bit longer. Now, you can also shuffle cards out to get the cards you want, but for the remainder of that particular battle, you will not be able to use those cards. And we're getting very lucky with the cards that are taken away. This is our first out of bounds clip that we're going to do. It's actually the easiest one. It's appropriate because it's the first one that we use. So we're out of bounds, and now we're going to run into this boss area, and we're warped back. So far, actually all of the clips that we use require some iteration of that. I was a little off with my timing there. That's okay. Let's get rid of this fairy, because fairies are annoying, and of course my timing's off again. This should be over fairly soon. Unfortunately, we got poisoned. It slowed us down a little bit. Oh my god. So we managed to get that in under 3, which is good. It would have been a little faster, but I kind of spaghettied the card draws. You also noticed that there was a little bit of lag there. Basically, there was too much stuff on the screen, and since I'm playing on console, it wasn't really prepared to do that. Now we're going to sell pretty much all of our cards so we can buy some new ones for our initial deck. Selling those not only gives us money, but because most of those were in our deck, it allows us to take them out without actually having to manually take them out in the deck edit, which would take a little bit. So now we just have to add in what we got. Now we're going into Blossoon. It's essentially the first real stage. There's a puzzle. It's very simple. It's really even I'm not comfortable calling it an actual puzzle. We just have to go through and light these torches. And once they're all lit, they'll open a gate, which will allow us to get to the boss. Essentially, what's happening in the game right now, I mentioned people are dying, there's a fog rolling in, monsters are coming in, and we've been tasked to handle it. In the kingdom, there are rune stones that allow us to use these magic cards. Unfortunately, we got an encounter here. I think we can run from this. Yeah. These rune stones allow us to use the cards, and the cards are what we use to kill everything. Unfortunately, in this game, the only people that have rune stones are heads of the kingdoms. We can't run from this one. And my timing was off, and of course we get poisoned. So it's kind of weird that Gerd, that old lady who we went to her card shop, actually has a card shop, because there's only so many people in the kingdom that can use. We just use an audio cue to know when to skip that. The only people that can use the cards are the people with the rune stones, and the people that with the rune stones, they're all the royalty, and they essentially, Jesus Christ, it's taking forever. We don't have the cards we want. They don't actually, use them. They kind of just sit in chests unused. So it's really weird that she'd have a card shop. But fortunately for us, because everyone's dying, it gives us an excuse to bust out the rune stone and kill things. Each kingdom in the game has one, and aside from the monsters and the fog, there's a woman going around, and she's basically toppling entire kingdoms to steal their rune stones. So that's one reason why we took our rune stone and ran. We're not only trying to fight back against what's going on, we're trying to keep whoever's stealing rune stones away from our rune stone. This stage is actually my favorite puzzle stage. Of course, since it's speedrunning, we're going to avoid doing the puzzle. But if you're going to play the game, you have to go around and look at various tombstones that tell stories of 4 kings, because it's a From Software game. Of course, there are 4 kings. And each of the tombstones gives you a hint as to what the end of the puzzle's order should be, because each king is associated with various color. Once we get into this next boss fight, I'll go into a little bit more of the mechanics of how everything works, because we'll be there for a little bit. And it's actually the first somewhat difficult boss fight, so it might be a little dodgy for me to try to do both at the same time, but I'll do my best. Of course, we remember the answer to the puzzle. The gate opens, we'll enter the cutscene boundary and just spam start so we can skip the cutscene. Now what we're going to do, we're going to try to get at a certain range to avoid getting hit by a certain ball. See, now he's too close, so we get a little further away. He teleports all over the place. Now, you see me, and I wasn't far enough away from that, but now he's dead. You see me using all of these cards, and these are attack cards. Each card, regardless of type, is bound to a button. You press that button, you use the card. Attack cards are really simple. You press the button, and it does a certain attack. There's also Independence, which I haven't used yet. We will be using those later. They're essentially, you throw down a monster and they act on their own AI. There are some that are static and always do the same thing, but for the most part, they're just extra monsters you throw down and hope they do what you want them to. There are also summons, which of course are amazingly fun in every RPG. Everyone loves summons, but summons come with cutscenes, and cutscenes take time, so we don't bother with any summons in this run. They're in one of the old strats we used to summon, but that strat has become obsolete simply because there are 2 points in that run that would become run killers. We're going to shuffle in this Lizardman because aside from the type of card, each card has a certain element. Water beats fire, fire beats wood, and wood beats earth, and earth beats water. Now, that creature we just fought was earth, so it's strong against water and weak against wood. So, the Lizardman we switched to, we're going to do it again here. The Lizardman we switched to does normal damage against the Dragonoids, whereas the Flying Rays that we have for the most part do, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just say half to an Earth monster. And that particular monster has a lot of iframes after being hit. So because using the card that is weak against that monster, it would take 4 rays to kill it, and counting in all of the iframes that come with it. Whereas the Lizardman doing normal damage only takes 2 hits. So that's one reason why we keep the Lizardman. We used to just use rays, but Lizardmen have a lot of convenient things, and since we already have them, we've pretty much collectively decided to start using them in the run. Longer before we used rays, we actually used to use all Lizardmen, but that's actually before I joined the community. You can see we use the rays there on the Flayer spawns, because Flayer spawns are fire, they're weak to water. And then we have like the water hopper there, the dolphin thing, that's a water, so when we use Lizardman it does extra damage against it. It's strong. And that's really one reason why this stage is so important, because largely because of this stage, that is why the meta currently is what it is. There are a couple of other reasons, but we'll get to those later. First, we're going to come up here, we're going to kill that Flayer spawn so he doesn't become a problem later. And that was a good fight. It was a little slow, but we didn't get hit by our Flayer spawn, and that's ideal. Now we got the key, and we're going to go and open a gate. Hopefully we don't get in random encounters. Random encounters are bad because that's just extra time. And some random encounters can be really unfortunate. We could have got one before that switch there, which would have been really bad because we would have either had to kill both the monsters or find a good place to run away, and then we'd have to go back to the switch either way, which is just net time loss. You can also get it afterwards. It's not as bad to get it afterwards because you don't have to go back to the switch, obviously. And now we're coming up to the end of the stage. There's some rare encounters that can happen here, and there's one very rare spawn that can happen here that when doing 100%, it's kind of necessary to sit around here and hopefully get it. Normally we don't look at card rewards, but there is a card that we would like to get from this. We got it. And it's not even a card we're going to use. It's just worth a lot of money. Which, using the current strats can be an issue. The backup strats for not having enough money are really easy, but it is just better in general to make sure you have the money for this strat. This is a somewhat uncommon encounter. We're going to kill this thing just so we don't have to do any doubling back or anything. This is a mandatory encounter. And for the most part, we have this down to a science of how many hits certain things take with certain creatures. And in this stage, we're going to go through and find switches on these statues to move the statues. Obviously, we already know what they are. It has been so long since I played this game casually that I don't remember how you find out what they are. It might just be trial and error, but it may not be. Unfortunately, we're getting a lot of random encounters. There's one unfortunate one we can get right here. We didn't get it. If you get it right there, you are pretty much forced to run really far away and then back to the switch, or to kill everything that spawns and run back to the switch. And depending on what spawns there, it can end up being really bad for you. This is also one reason why I went with 15 rays. It's very, very possible to do it with 8 rays. I've done it with 8 rays. Normally I do it with 11, just to try and avoid the risk of decking out, just like in any card game. That's essentially a bonfire. It restores our stuff and lets us deck at it. I didn't need to go there. I don't know why I did. I forgot about that cutscene. And here comes the other reason why we want to have Lizardman. Because she likes to jump around a lot. And when you have Lizardman and she jumps around, the rays have auto tracking, so when she jumps they kind of just miss her. We just got a frame perfect cutscene skip there. That's nice. So having the Lizardman allows us to hit her when she tries to dodge, keeping our rhythm going, keeping our damage going, and keeping her from summoning any cards that could become an issue. So Lizardmen are really handy for her. Now we're going on to the Bridge of Sarvan. This is a really, really important stage for the history of speedrunning the stage. It's actually where we found our first Out of Bounds clip. It's right there at the beginning. You have to run off to the right, find a person-sized invisible hole to fit through, walk down the other side towards the exit of the map, and then you have to double back under the stage. Since we found this new Out of Bounds clip, it's become obsolete. Only after getting this clip, you kind of realize how long that other clip took. But there's also the issue, alright, we're going to have to kill this guy. If we didn't, he would have hit us when we tried to run. So we just went ahead and took him out. But getting the new one really put into perspective just how slow that clip was. And there's also the issue of Sarvan being a run-ending stage. The strat we used to use involved getting a certain card at the end of the stage that has a 1 in 3 chance to drop, and if you didn't get it, it's pretty much run over. That card happens to be the card that we got out of that chest. Using the old clip, you would be out of bounds and you wouldn't be able to open that chest. So this new clip allows us to guarantee getting the card that we need, instead of having to rely on getting it in the card drop at the end of this stage. So there's a few reasons why this stage is really important. And that clip we just did is the reason why this stage is so drastically different than what it used to be. And it's also probably the hardest walking clip that we do in any percent. And we'll just see, yeah, we didn't get the card that we would have needed if we used the other clip. So that would have been a run killer. Luckily we don't do that anymore. And the card I got is actually kind of beneficial, because it's a card I would end up buying later. So that ends up saving me, I think, 240 gold later on. This stage is somewhat important because there's been a lot of wacky stuff with it. This is where the second clip that we found is, and it's actually right here. And it's also the second easiest clip. We just sit here and stutter ourselves out of bounds and we're gone. The other thing that's kind of weird about this stage is it's kind of an auto-scroller. You're supposed to go and talk to this guard and walk him through the stage, and random battles are supposed to pop up and you're supposed to protect him. Well, it turns out that if you just ran past him, you wouldn't get any encounters. So that made this stage really easy, but it is kind of a windy road. Lots of places you can go to get lost. We're going to break this box to try to bait this guy over here. And they're this might kill it. But of course, the out of bounds clip is much faster than going through the windy road. And there was another cutscene that we skipped very fast. We got the Puppet Master card, that's even more money. So, we're about halfway through, a little under halfway through, and we already are guaranteed to have at least the exact amount of money that we need for the strat that we're using. This is Burnden Field, and this is kind of a complicated place, and really, this has now become it's a really weird place. There's a lot to talk about here. First, we're going to kill this guy. You just saw me. I've been using the card alternating technique. That was actually a good showcase of that. When you're using attack cards, you can actually take advantage of the refresh on it. Normally, you'd have to wait until a card's animation is done to use another card. But when we're talking attack cards like that, we can stream them together before the animation is actually done. So it's really nice. That's another reason why we primarily use attack cards. This is kind of an uncommon encounter, but it's not that big of a deal. This is where the final walking clip of the game is. And I failed to mention that at that gate from earlier, there is a possible clip that uses vastly different strats than what I'm comfortable using. So I just use this. It allows us to skip a boss battle right here where this big yellow dot is. It was a very hard boss battle. There was a giant zombie dragon and a lich. You had to kill the lich to win. The lich kind of ran around. The zombie dragon uses breath and it can petrify you, and both of them hit you, back and forth, which cause you to, take a lot of damage. And since they move so much, you use a lot of cards just in general. And you would come into this fight completely unprepared and would very often deck out. And that's not even the worst part. Every single attack that giant Beelzebub does, we just got the Lich card. Every single attack it does can petrify you. And every single attack it has is a giant area of effect. The biggest issue about that is, aside from it costing time and not being able to do anything about anything, that monster has a passive where if it's standing in front of you and you're too close, it will very rapidly sting you to death. So it is very possible to end a run there if you don't keep your distance. And now we're at Castle Wit. We're still following Helena. She's taking down kingdoms and stealing the runestones. The reason we aborted this stage is because, for whatever reason, it allows us to avoid two possible random encounters at the beginning of the stage. One right after the elevator, and a actual guaranteed encounter later on. We also went and picked up the Running Bird card. Actually, let me check and make sure that we did pick that up. I can't remember. We'll just have to check later, I guess. That's okay. I'm not worried about that time loss. There's a possible encounter we can get right here, and we got it. This is actually not a common encounter, but I have been getting it very consistently. And it's very terrifying. Those are called mole monsters. And they're the stuff of nightmares. You can actually take a route to avoid that encounter. I just prefer to go straight, because normally I don't get that encounter. But lately I've been getting it practically every time. We're going to switch out this ray for this lizardman to break these tables. And now we're going to kill these tiger mages. And we're going to break this table. Breaking the tables allows us to hit this switch and just run straight back instead of having to run around them. Using the 8 card strat and sometimes the 11 card strat, it is very possible to deck out here. Especially if you get 2 mole monsters encounters. This one's very unfortunate because we're kind of caught out and we had to run backwards. So we had to double back and lose some time. And now we're at the boss fight. Very possible to deck out here, especially if you get 2 encounters with 8 cards. You're almost guaranteed to deck out. And this guy is being kind of wishy-washy. He doesn't want to play with his friends. And my Ray's auto tracking is being really weird. Luckily we have Lizardman to catch him when he tries to duck us. That was a very, very bad fight. But you got to see what I was talking about with the homing of the rays being somewhat of a hindrance sometimes. Now we're going to lose a little bit of time because the old strat involved me never going back to the shop. But it will allow us to make up time later on. We're going to come in and we're going to sell practically everything we've got. We don't even need to. We have so many high cost cards that we don't need to, but just for the sake of getting them out the way, not you. We're going to sell them anyways. And we're going to buy 14 Dragonites. We already have 1 and we want 15. This is kind of it's a weird variation on the current world record strat. I do quite a few things differently, but with the same net end result. Obviously not the same net end time, but we end up using practically the same strats despite how we differ in getting there. This is an interesting stage because everyone has a different route they use for this. World record holder 7th sometimes uses this route, but for the most part he at least takes out both of the chests on the left first and then comes to the right. I do this to take advantage of encounters. You notice I broke that gate. Breaking the gates on these top ones drastically lowers the amount of time that you spend in this stage. So ideally we'd get an encounter right here. I'm going to hit this fairy. Alright, good. Fairy didn't give it to us, but we got the encounter. We wanted it, so... that's fine. Now you notice I switched to Lizardman for that. Because if I had used a ray there, it would have tried to have targeted the monster. And sometimes the rays target things that don't seem to exist. So it's another benefit of having Lizardman. It's just for taking out these gates. We've been very fortunate with the encounters we've been getting because they've allowed us to break the gates that we want to break. That prevent us from doubling back and wasting a lot of time. This is probably my least favorite puzzle stage. All you have to do is open up the chests in any order and light these candles at any order. And that's how you solve the stage. Kind of lame if you ask me. And we're coming up on a battle that can prove to be a place where you can deck out if you're not careful. We just took advantage of some iframes there to keep from being hit by the curse. And now we're double hitting the greater demon. They're both dead. So now we just have to stun lock the vampire. Should be easier if we weren't poisoned like that. We should kill him. That was a decent fight. If we hadn't let ourselves get poisoned there, we would have... And we got vampire. We're getting all the boss monsters. If we hadn't allowed ourselves to get poisoned there, we would have made it out even faster. This point right here is normally where 7th would buy some things to get an insta-kill on this next stage. But I'm not comfortable using that shred on this stage. I don't know why, but particularly I have trouble using that shred on this stage. So I just go into it with what we normally have and hope things work out. And we're going to try to kind of run circles around here and keep her stun locked. So far so good. That was wonderful. That was a perfect fight. There's some things that can go wrong there. She could have used the fairy to regain health. We would have had to sit through the animation. And we would have had to deal with her getting health back. But you see, the trip to the card shop that cost us 30 seconds, we just made back 50 seconds from that. But now we're going to buy the things that we need to finish the game, not you. We're going to buy one of these because we already have one. We're going to buy 2 of these, and I'm going to buy 9 of these. I think 7th only buys 7, but I see them as a greater utility. And if I didn't have enough money, yeah, 7 is more than enough. Shoot. We're actually going to go through and take out everything that's in here to make it faster putting the stuff in. And we're putting in the Dragon Knights we bought oh so long ago. That takes a little bit of time, but we'll see how well it pays off at the end of this stage. Because if you look around, this looks like a fire stage. And you'd be right. So what do we use at a fire stage? Well, obviously all of those Dragon Knights, right? They're water, right? Well, we'll use them here. But we won't be using them later on because there's a much better option. And these guys, everyone hates these guys. They kind of just go around and they're really annoying. They shoot giant fireballs at you. They dodge. 7th, actually, if he has enough money, buys a specific card that does global damage, just so he doesn't have to deal with them. But even with that strat, they can dodge the global damage attack, and it's very frustrating if you do it and they do that. Luckily, we didn't get any random encounters, and we're going to come into the boss fight, and instead of using Dragon Knights, we're going to fight fire with fire. These hands are really annoying. I'm just going to go ahead and kill this one. I didn't need to at all. I've let myself get stun locked just because I allowed myself to be consumed by hatred. If I had just done this from the beginning, all 3 of them would have insta-died. What we just saw was the cat combo. There are certain combos in this game. You throw down 3 kitty traps, and it does a giant explosion, which can obviously do enough damage to kill a giant red dragon that would normally take a lot of time to kill. It has ridiculous iframes. If you try to kill it with Dragon Knights, it probably takes at least 90 seconds. Just because of how long it takes for him to recover. Rays is it's hard to say whether Rays are faster, because, yeah, it has less iframes if you hit it with a Ray, but Rays take more, Rays don't do as much damage as a Dragon Knight. Now we're at the second to last stage. You notice I killed that guy. It's because I know I can kill him in one hit, and the time that it would have taken to run away could have possibly been longer than just kill him. Certain times you'll see me do it, certain times you'll see me not. For instance, I'm not now because that would mean going all the way over there and having to come back. And that's okay. I panicked there for a second. because Golden Butterfly and BB we can't afford to lose. And here there's nothing that we can't afford to lose. This is a very straightforward stage. I'm not going to fight this guy. He has too much health, and he is very dangerous. This stage actually has a lot of utility. There are 4 secret stages you can unlock in this stage. We're not going to bother with those in any percent. If I were to do 100%, they'd be really important. But also because if you go in here in a casual playthrough, you will get lost. I still get lost from time to time. So it's all a matter of if I hit the wrong camera at the wrong time, I let myself get lost, and that's unfortunate. It's not going to happen now. Speaking of casual playthrough, going back a really long time ago in this run, I was talking about summoning cards and the different types of cards. If you're playing through casually, don't do what I'm doing. Don't just get attack cards. For one, it actually takes a lot of practice to be able to use them the way that we do. But also because you are missing out on so much of the game. You are missing out on practically everything the game has to offer if you play it like this. It's still fun, just because of how well the game is designed, and just how unique the mechanics are, and everything revolving around that. But you're still missing out on a lot if you don't do a casual playthrough as kind of a introduction to the game. Just working your way through, finding out which cards you like, which cards you don't, evolving cards, copying them. We're gonna kill this guy. There's so much fun stuff to do, and there's even more stages and monsters that we don't even look at. You notice the fairies that are around, the red fairies. In the lore, they're pieces of the god of creation. There's a guy that collects them and gives you cards for them. They actually combine together, which makes it kind of wonder like what his intentions are. I'm always going to use cat traps, but we got a pretty good Dragonite based hand going on here. I let myself get hit and let the this is unfortunate positioning for me. Alright, he's dead. You know what? I'm going to blow him up. I'm going to blow him up. I'm going to blow both of them up. I didn't know they were both alive. I was going to blow both of them up, but the cat trap combo went off a little sooner than I would have liked. So this fight took a little bit longer than we would have liked. If we had started off with cats, it would have gone really well. If the cats that I did use had done what they were supposed to have, it would have gone even faster. I think we've literally gotten every single boss card drop. But now we're coming up on the final stage. Going into this, I want to talk about, well, first, we don't want to get any random encounters aside from attacks in this stage. Especially not the ones that are in the center of the main hallway. Because those spawn more than one monster. Making it very difficult to try to take them down in order to save the cards that we can't afford to lose. There are certain areas where only one spawns, like here, that aren't a big deal. We can't run from it anyway, so we wouldn't lose any cards. Right now we're going through, we just got this thing to open a door. Typical RPG stuff, get the things to do the things, to do more things, to do all the things. And we made it through without tax. There's a certain encounter that can happen on any of those. It's a Beelzebub, the really dangerous guy from earlier. Every monster that spawns in here is a boss monster at some point in the game. But now we're going to use some cats to make this fight very easy. Luckily, they're kind of hanging out together, My timing was a little bit off there. There we go. We're just gonna throw down these cats now and watch what happens. Ideally, not that. Screw it. Jesus, I don't know what I want to do. We'll just do it like this. That's fine. I didn't know if I wanted to throw down the Hand of Pain there. Very unfortunate that the last 2 times I've tried cat combo, it didn't go off as planned. The other combo we're going to use is the Exodia combo, and there's actually 2 variations of it. The old version, which is the one that had 2 run-ending parts to it, if we didn't get the golden butterfly on the bridge, or if we didn't get that giant red dragon that we killed, it would have been run-ending for it. That one involved using golden butterfly, running bird, red dragon, and the hand of fire that you should almost always get from that stage. And the new one is golden butterfly, running bird, siren, and hand of pain, which are all cards that are not missable. We're going to take advantage of using siren and cats in this stage. We need to get these guys to hang out together. We also need to make sure that we have all the cards that we want to do this with. At this point, if this doesn't go right, we might be in trouble. I've been known to mess this up quite a few times. There we go. And boom. Alright, we got them both. Great. 7th is such a beast that he would just run and assume they died. I have to see it for myself. Because, like, if they don't die, you can still sit on the lip and kill them while you're out of bounds. But he's just like, nah, I'm good. Let's see, what do we got here? I kind of want to be safe and try and use it. No, we're just going to go for it. Why not? We've already got 3 of the... Okay, we already have it. It would have been a waste to... So now we're just going to go around, bait out his summon. That is an amazing summon for him to do for us right there. Now we're just going to get behind for us, wait for it to pop off. And we're going to throw this guy down. He might be a little bit too far away. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We're going to have to use our Dragon Knights on him. And hope that we can actually hit him, which we just did. We still have some cats back there, so we should be able to get this. Luckily, he just used a summon, which will lock him down. Yeah, we couldn't really avoid that. That's unfortunate. Alright, we got him. Even though Exodia failed. It's kind of unfortunate I didn't get to showcase Exodia, but it's alright. Now we're going into the final boss. This can be a very tricky fight. Mainly because of these guys. They're no fun to deal with. Yeah, they pretty much just get in your way. Right now we're going to throw down Siren and hopefully get out of here before that kills us. We were very fortunate to have been knocked down there. Unfortunately, it killed our Siren. So far, not going very well. We don't want to be standing in front of him like this, because he... Throw down. And this should be it. And we're done. We unfortunately just got hit by 2 of those, which could have been... These results so we can see our in-game time. Let's see why we want to save it over. We'll save it over this. What do we get? It sucks that we have to actually clear a save to see what our in-game time was. We got 38:10. I think 44:20. Community kind of blew up, which, by the way, community... I'm going to show off a little something. There's something. So what I wanted